and bring it back like so. Pinch this down. So that again, I want as much of it to stick down on the top as I can. Okay? Now, in a real animal, when you've scrubbed this and you've put alcohol on it and maybe it bled out when it's kind of damp. Very rarely is it really dry. So again, very easy for the catheter to slip out. So now as I go to put my T-port on, I'm going to have it ready in my hand. This is a real important part. I'm going to come underneath the limb and hang on to the catheter right there. If I go to pull my cap off and I just pull it out, chances are the whole thing's going to come out, which then you've got to start all over again. So I want to hang on to my catheter. I'm going to take off my cap. And again, this is normally where blood, again, might pour out. I'm going to go ahead and make some blood pour out. This is a normal thing to see. That's good. That means you're in the vein. Okay, I'm going to put my cap in the end. Again, I'm going to grab my paper towel and clean up the mess. Because anytime we can get blood not on the tape or on your fingers, it's going to help you in the long run. Okay, good. So now we've anchored that in. So then all I want to do is make sure that this doesn't come out. So here's what I'm going to take one of my skinny little pieces, sticky side up, and instead of going on the side here, I'm going to go right in the middle of it. I'm going to hold it so that I've got even amount on either side. And I'm going to wedge it right under the very beginning of this T-port here, but I'm going to keep the tape on this side of the T. This is the T branch. So, and I'm going to drop part of it over like that and cross it over and bring this over and cross it over that side. Now, this strip is, for my own liking, this is a little too thick of a piece. I'd have it a little thinner. Reason being is it's sort of blocked a little bit of my injection cap there. Sometimes you want to leave that open. You never know when you're going to be in an emergency situation and you need to ram a drug right in the end of this. And if it's covered up with tape, that becomes a problem. And the reason I say that is this part usually gets hooked up onto an IV line and the animal's dripping on fluids. So if the animal was to start having a seizure or needed some IV medication right away, if I covered this up, I'm going to have to unhook my fluid line and all that. This way I can go right to the cage, open it up, he's laying on his side, and I can inject my drug right into this end while the fluids are running the whole time. Okay, so that's the importance of keeping this open, which I did fairly well. But all right, now I have a piece left over, so I'm going to go ahead and anchor down my crisscross so that I just know that that stays down. Just one more little piece. Okay. This cap stayed on the whole time, so I don't have to worry about this falling on the table and getting all junky. And then if we want to take this dog out to use the bathroom or something, we can literally just take this whole thing, and notice I've kept it crimped this whole time. As soon as I uncrimp this, blood flow is going to run back into my T-port. So this will prevent blood from running back. See, I can push on this and it's going to hold it into place. If I uncrimp it, you'll know because you start to get blood back in your line. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you're starting to get red. And we don't want blood in our line. We want to keep the blood out of the T-port as much as possible. There is no anticoagulant in this line, so if blood gets in that line, the first thing it's going to want to do is clot. And now you're trying to push a clot through that. So that's why you try to keep blood out of that. Anyway, so I'm just going to then cover this whole thing up because I want to take him out to go potty.
So fluids go on the stool part, and
in fact, do we have our tree out here? Let me grab our tree. I'll show you exactly how to do this.
you can have some like a shot because it's well, even then, half the time when I was looking over there, it was way too bright. I wanted to adjust all.
Okay.
No,
Part two.
this all I knew is that I don't have a bag.
Okay.
I always do, and I took it out this morning because I took some this morning.
Okay, so now that we've got this tied in, let's say we want to hook the dog up. Okay, and then usually at this time, the dog can either stand at this point or he can continue to lay down, depending. It doesn't matter. You can do it either way. But if my restrainer, who's been so gracious to hold all this time while I'm putting it in, she may be getting tired, and the dog may be getting antsy and all that. So let's go ahead and let him stand up. and then you can just sort of pet him up here and keep his head so he doesn't try to bite me. So now he's standing up. So now I can hook my line up here. So if I'm going to have him on fluids, I can bring this right along here. Okay. Now, we did not talk about hooking up fluids. We'll do that when we towards the end of this month, because we'll talk about bleeding the line and making sure there's no air in this as well. But for this demonstration purposes, we'll just leave it like it is. I can tell they have bled the line. They've been using it for sub-Q fluids and so on. Okay, here's the important thing. Remember what happens when I unclamp this? Someone tell me what happens when I unclamp this. Blood comes pouring out. I don't want blood pouring out. I want to keep it clean and all that. So I'm going to leave that clamped. I'm going to unhook my cap. Now at this point, usually the cap goes into whatever you had the line hooked up in. You put your cap in that end. We want to keep that cap clean and sterile. The whole time I'm hanging on to this. What I don't want to do is throw this up there and set it on the counter or something like that where it can get contaminated. So I'm hanging on to it. This goes right in the end, and you put it on very gently. I see a lot of people try to wrench this down. Don't do that, because this thing will need pliers to take off if you do that. So we're just going to put it on very lightly, and it even comes with a little screw cap, so you can gently screw the cap down. That keeps it in place. It's not going anywhere. But I promise you, if it's on too tight, you will not. You think you have a hard time tearing tape. Wait till you try to get this thing undone, and your bottom cage, and your scrubs are falling down, and you're showing them in your underwear, and your dog is being all squirrely, and you're trying to undo this. So you wanted this to be a very easy process. Okay. So I'm going to put that on. Now that it's hooked up, now I can unclamp it. Okay? Now, there's a theory behind how you hook a dog up so that the fluids flow. Some people believe that you should have the line hanging down like this. I disagree with that. Because if this line hangs down right here where his foot is, all he has to do in the cage is step on it once, and this thing's going to start beeping and it's not going to drip. Okay? So what I like to do is turn this the other direction so that it's facing upward. Okay? And I'm going to give it a little curl here. And if you notice on the front of this, you'll see I've put a little J, a little hook into it. Okay? So now I'm going to hang on to the fluids up here. And now I'm going to take my vet wrap and I put it around his leg. Maybe, sort of, kind of. You'll notice that this swings out a little further. When I had it going down the leg, the line was laying right here. Look at the distance. So now as he walks, it's harder to catch it, okay? Because it's just away from his body a little bit. All right. Now, notice I've unhooked him, so look, blood has started to run into this thing. That's okay. Once I start his fluids, that's going to flow back into the vein, okay? The other thing I like to do is leave this white tab hanging down here. People said, you don't want to cover up that white tab? Why would you leave that hanging down there? And the biggest reason I leave this hanging out there is your dog's in the cage, you turn the fluids on, it starts to go, and all of a sudden the machine beeps at you. And when this machine beeps at you, it's going to give you a little signal. And one of the signals it likes to use is the term occluded.